I think most people tend to look forward to their 20s. You know, you expect it to be kind of the best time of your life, and you get to make your own choices and decisions, and you get to have fun, and you don't have massive responsibility. And that's how I expected my life to be as well. I was really looking forward to being in my 20s and just seeing where life was gonna go. But I instead entered into the worst decade of my life. And I started this YouTube channel kind of with the intention of making this video and explaining my journey. But as time went on, I couldn't do it. And I have been asked now a little bit more recently to share my journey, and it's just taken me a really long time because frankly, I don't want to talk about it. It's the whole reason I started my YouTube channel, but it's not easy for me to discuss. But here we go. This is my fitness journey, my weight loss, glow up, and overcoming depression, how I did that and what caused it. So don't forget to subscribe to my channel, give this video a thumbs up if you feel like it, and let's jump in. I'm going to briefly run through kind of my childhood and early college years. So growing up, I mean, we grew up on a typical standard Western diet. We didn't eat out a lot. I know a lot of people, I grew up in the 90s, by the way. So I'm a 90s child. And you know, we did go to McDonald's every so often. We did get fast food. Pickup Sticks was one of my favorites. But for the most part, we ate at home, and we did eat a lot of Whole Foods. But then, you know, like convenience food started to come out. Costco was a big deal, and they made food for you so you could have pre-made dinners. So, you know, my parents, more specifically my mom, she did a mix of kind of pre-made foods versus making whole food dinners like salmon and vegetables, and we had like meatloaf, and you know, so we didn't eat the worst growing up, but we also, you know, we still didn't eat the best either because no one really had a concept of nutrition at the time. And anyway, so we just had a very typical diet. I was never overweight. My parents put us all the kids, she put us all in sports. I played soccer and softball growing up, and when I went to high school, I was on dance team for a couple of years. But honestly, I never enjoyed sports. I was not athletic. So I was always a very normal, healthy-ish weight, but I didn't have a lot of confidence, especially going into high school. My confidence just went down the drain going into high school. You kind of become a lot more aware of your surroundings and highly self-conscious. And I was super, super quiet. I have social anxiety. I've always had social anxiety. High school was hard for me. I don't know if anyone I know actually knows that high school was hard for me, but I was just so quiet and so in my head all the time. I just didn't know what to do with myself. But anyway, so overall, like, I was not overweight. I was not necessarily unhealthy, but I didn't feel confident in my own body. And so I often would try all these really dumb diets to try to lose weight. I never thought of exercise at all when it came to trying to get a better physique. I only saw it as food and just trying not to eat, which I really sucked at. I tried all these diets. I would last maybe a day. I remember one day I tried not eating all day long. I almost made it, but I couldn't do it. I just did a lot of dumb stuff. I did some dumb diets with friends, but I was never ever successful because they just weren't obviously healthy, and it's not something anyone should ever be doing. So I just always stayed the same. I was never able to achieve the goals that I wanted because I couldn't stick with all these ridiculous diets that I was trying to do. And then also in high school, toward the end of high school, so my junior and senior year, that's when I started to dabble with alcohol. And I was originally always anti-alcohol. I didn't drink alcohol until I think I was 17. And of course, my parents were not the ones who gave me alcohol. I wasn't in sports anymore. I didn't have a lot of extracurricular activities anymore. And so I had more time, and all I could think about was wanting to party because I was super socially anxious. I felt like I didn't know how to have a conversation. And so I wanted to go to parties to drink alcohol to feel like I fit in and knew how to just talk to people. And so I would go to these parties. I would always get caught. My parents would always catch me, and then I would be grounded for months at a time, literally months. My parents didn't ground me for weeks. They grounded me for months. And I was actually kind of fine with it because I just hung out with my mom all the time, and I loved hanging out with my mom. So it really didn't bother me. I was like, I got my fix. I went to my party, and now I just get to hang out with my mom. And I mean, but then as soon as I was ungrounded, all I wanted to do was go to another party. So anyway, I didn't actually party that much in high school because I was grounded for so long. That only gives me a few opportunities to ever have a drink in high school. Then I go into college. So after my senior year, obviously I graduated, went to college. I was super excited. I could not wait to go to college. I wanted to leave high school behind, and I wanted to go and party as much as I wanted to and not get grounded. And that's exactly what I did. So high school and college, totally different. High school is very cliquey, whereas college, everyone's making new friends, and so everyone's super friendly. And I was still socially anxious. I had social anxiety still, so I wanted to use alcohol in order to make it easier on myself to socialize. And in order to feel the effects of alcohol faster, I would not eat. Not just throughout the day, but specifically like right before going out, I wouldn't eat dinner, which obviously isn't the best idea. So I would get pretty drunk pretty quick. And that's just kind of how I operated. And at first I lost a lot of weight because I was not eating as much food. But then that quickly caught up to me, and I started to overeat. And we only had one place to eat, which was the cafeteria. It was a part of the dorm fees. So I only had one place that I could eat for free. Technically, we paid for it, but it was all inclusive. So if I wanted to eat anywhere else, I had to pay extra money to go out to eat. My school was not fancy in that manner. Maybe it's changed since, but the food in the cafeteria was just plain awful. The healthiest thing they had was a salad bar, which I don't think I ever ate at anyway, and it was probably all the lowest quality crop that there could be. But so eventually I just ended up compensating for the hangovers by overeating, and then I started to gain weight. Overall, I didn't really gain an excessive amount of weight. I gained about 10 extra pounds, but that felt so foreign to me because I had never gained any extra weight before. I felt totally not in my body. I felt like I was wearing a suit. Felt like I had a second skin on that just wasn't mine, and all I wanted to do was take it off. And it was also the first time that I experienced, sorry, I've got both puppies sitting right here making some noises, so just please don't mind that, sorry. Anyway, but it was the first time that I experienced not being able to take a deep breath. Like, I could only do it in my chest. I couldn't take those deep belly breaths that I can do now. It was just really, really devastating. And even like bending over and like tying my shoe or just putting shoes on or whatever, that was hard. And I could feel like my face getting flushed. I also experienced some other symptoms. I, at one point, got this massive rash on the back of my neck. Didn't know what it was. I just tried to ignore it. And I eventually got scarring from it because it was just so bad. So I just started to experience a lot of symptoms that I really didn't like. I felt miserable in my body every single day. And eventually I was fed up with it. And I didn't want to party anymore, and I just wanted to get my health back on track. I had a friend who was a runner, and despite drinking a lot of alcohol and all that stuff, she was still able to run. And I was like, oh my gosh, I would love that ability. Not just to, not because I wanted to just drink as much as I want, but still have the ability to like run and everything. But, thank you. But I just want, okay. I just wanted to, I just wanted to feel better. Thank you, Koda. Thank you. So pretty much at the end of my sophomore year, I had had enough with how I felt, and I moved out of the dorms, and it was the summer before my junior year, moved into a new place off campus. It was the first time I stayed at school during summer, and I lived with my roommate at the time. She was my best friend from college, and there was a period of time, a 2-week period, where she had left, and I was like, okay, I have this time and space to myself. I have no parties to go to. I'm just gonna eat fruits and vegetables and a little bit of nuts and seeds. I don't know why I decided to do this. I cannot remember, but that's what I told myself I wanted to do, because I just wanted to get rid of any type of temptation that was in my house and only have the option to eat fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds. And I did it for 2 weeks. I ate as much as I wanted to of those things. And when my roommate came back, she was like, whoa, you look really good. What did you do? And so I told her what I did. And that was kind of the start of me figuring out weight loss and just this whole journey and what I'm about to kind of tell you guys. I also remember at one point, this was kind of when organic food was coming onto the market, and I had no idea what organic meant. And my dad, I remember him asking me, he's like, oh, do you think that there's a difference between organic food and non-organic food? I didn't know if he knew the answer or not. He was just asking me the question. But in my head, I was thinking, there's no way. Like, I bet it's just a ploy to get more money from people. I didn't believe in it, but I also had no idea what it meant. So I was like, no, it doesn't, there's no difference. And he's like, actually, there is. And so that was another kind of like spark into my interest into food. So those are two just very distinct moments that I remember at that time that just piqued my interest. So I kind of just started to look into food, because I noticed that I ate really horrible. Then I ate lots of fresh produce, and I felt two totally different things. I didn't necessarily lose a ton of weight on that 2-week thing. I probably did lose some weight. It mostly changed how I felt on the inside, and obviously it did change a little bit how I looked on the outside just within a 2-week period. And this is also when I started to exercise. I think this was when my school finally got its own gym that was free and included in your tuition. And I would go and I would just go on the bike, because that was the easiest form of cardio for me at the time. Running, I always hated running. I didn't want to do it. So that was not an option for me. Sorry, that's my dog. So many noises going on right now. Hopefully this isn't being picked up. But anyway, I would go to the gym and I would just go on the bike. I had no plan for exercise, but I just started to go on the bike and just move my body. And slowly over time, I was just incorporating a lot of whole foods into my diet. I just changed how I was eating. I kind of, just, even though I didn't really have a concept of nutrition, I just knew that whole foods were obviously better than junk foods and fast food. And because I felt very, very different on those two things. To me, it was just obvious. So the first semester of my junior year was pretty good, because I was changing my eating habits and I was exercising a little bit and I was starting to feel a lot better. At the end of the semester before winter break, I actually moved into a new place. It's weird. I think I only had a 6 months lease at this one place, and then moved into a new place. And I was just super excited to just be more serious about school. And I started taking nutrition courses at my school, and I kind of learned about different diets and whatnot. And then I didn't go home for winter break, but I would go home occasionally, obviously, because there's Christmas and whatnot. And this is kind of where my life just completely just changed and wasn't what I expected. So let's get into that. My mom was starting to experience some symptoms of just, you know, something was wrong. We thought maybe it was menopause, but we kind of realized the symptoms she was having was not menopause related. So she was experiencing things that I was like looking up online. I was getting all scared, and I was urging my mom to go to the doctor, and she didn't want to. And I was thinking, like, why wouldn't you want to go to the doctor to figure out what you have so that you could fix it? And I was really, really mad at her. This was like the first time I was ever, you know, really mad at my mom. Not just for being like a kid over something stupid, but I was genuinely mad at her. I was like, you got to go to the doctor because, you know, you have to be healthy, and like, I want you to live for forever, and you got to solve it. So I was really mad at her. I went back to school, and I remember going to the gym, and this was the first time that I ever used exercise to work through a feeling. And this feeling at the time was anger. I didn't talk to my mom for a few days because I was really mad that she wasn't going to go to the doctor. And then I went home, like, you know, pretty shortly after. Man, okay. She did go to the doctor. I came home and she was in bed, and she told me, I have to tell you something. And she found out that she had cancer, and that's why I guess she knew, and she was like, that's why I didn't want to go to the doctor. I don't know how she knew. I don't know all of those details, but, and she said it's terminal. And I asked how long, and she said 2 years. And that actually gave me a glimmer of hope, because I was like, 2 years, that's a good amount of time. Like, I'm learning about nutrition. I'm like, let's fix this, you know? And I immediately, this is like pretty much the last time in my life that I was positive about something. I used to be a pretty positive person, and I've become a very negative person. So I was just like looking up every possible way that you could reverse cancer, because I was like so excited about what I was learning about food. I found this one, I was looking at tons of documentaries. I would make her watch documentaries with me. I watched them on my own. I found this one website that basically you send people to this place in Mexico, and all they do is eat organic produce, and they're in a very clean environment, a very, you know, plant-focused environment, like not just eating plants, but like in a forest of plants. And so I was like, Mom, we gotta do this at home. Like, I'm here to help you. Like, I'll make you fresh pressed juices, and I'm gonna do everything I can for you. And I would try to make different foods for her, but she didn't like them. And she was having a really hard time eating. She didn't have much of an appetite. And she was doing chemotherapy. And I remember the first time when she was telling me about it, and I asked her, you know, like, with this doctor, it's because what she had is pretty rare. But I asked her, like, what are the survival rates of this guy's patients? And I don't remember what the percentage was, but it was really, really low, like a really discouraging number. Basically, like, no one really made it. And I'm thinking in my head, why are you doing this? Pretty much all I did for 7 months was I would go to school because I had to, and I had classes like Monday through Wednesday, and then I had a random class on Friday, and I almost never went to that class because I just wanted to be at home with my mom, and I wanted to help her and be with her and try to get her healthy again. But pretty much, you know, my mom just she couldn't do it, and she was getting sicker and sicker, and she couldn't eat certain things, and I wasn't, you know, I was a total noob at just like this nutrition stuff, and I didn't know what I was doing, and I couldn't encourage her. I wasn't enough to have her try a whole food organic diet of mostly produce. Even though I really believed in it, she didn't believe in it, and she was like, she's like, I'm not gonna try that, you know. Need to interject here really quickly. The place I'm talking about in Mexico was a place for cancer patients. So they would take on patients with all types of stages of cancer, including stage 4. Patients would go in, they would be fed a diet of completely organic produce. They would pack in these patients the best quality food filled with tons and tons of micronutrients that our bodies need. Basically, micronutrients balance your hormones, and the type of cancer that my mom had had to do with her hormones. And pretty much everything has to do with your hormones. Your body does not function without hormones. So if your hormones are out of whack, your body starts developing diseases, developing cancers, your organs don't work the way it's supposed to, including like your skin. So that's why I was really excited about this program. Their success rate was really, really high. Even stage 4 cancer patients would come out completely cancer-free. So that is why I was trying to encourage my mom to do this, because I was like, if anything, even if she did chemo on top of it, this type of diet is not going to hurt her. If it either will do nothing or it will heal her. So to me, I thought, why wouldn't you do this? But she didn't believe in it. She grew up where everyone ate whatever they wanted. No one gained weight, but it was well before our agriculture system and the way that food works now. It was well before it started going way downhill. So she just grew up where nobody worried about that stuff. You could eat whatever you want, and nobody gained weight because the food was very, very different. So to her, this just didn't make sense. And anyway, she didn't want to do it. Ultimately, she got sicker and sicker, and watching her get sicker and sicker was awful. Like, it was just the worst. And any of you who have experienced someone going through cancer, I'm sure you know how awful it is. And it only took 7 months before she died. And I didn't know what to do with myself anymore. I immediately went into depression, and I literally had no desire for life anymore. Okay, I gotta pause and like readjust my thoughts for a second. So I didn't do a whole lot at first. I remember telling my dad, I was like, I don't care about nutrition anymore. I don't care about exercise. Like, I'm over it. Everything's meaningless, basically. And he told me, he said, you will eventually care about it. And he was right. I eventually did, but prior to that, I wasn't doing a whole lot. So during the summer, my dad and I would go mountain biking. I pretty much just hung out with my dad. Whatever my dad did is what I did. Because one, I didn't want to be alone. I wanted to be as close to my family as possible. I do have 3 other siblings, and we were all in different stages. Like, my younger sister was in high school, my older sister was in college in San Diego, and then my brother was living on his own. So we were all in different areas, and I decided to stay at home. So my younger sister was at home as well, but she was also going through her own emotions and coping with my mom's death. And but I just pretty much hung out with my dad and just went mountain biking with him and worked in the yard, and I don't know what else I did. I stopped talking to friends. I didn't go to anything. If I was invited to a birthday, a wedding, a baby shower, any type of party, just a social gathering, I went to absolutely nothing. I had no desire for life. I literally didn't want to live anymore. I associated all of those events with joy, and I had no joy. I had no desire for life at all. So that's pretty much how I operated for 3 full years. I was self-isolating for 3 years. I was in deep depression for that long. It's quite a long time. I went back to school after the summer, obviously, because my dad made me, and I pretty much just continued what I was doing, which was mountain biking with my dad, working in the yard, which is pretty much all we did. And then now I added school on top of that. So I just was focused on school, and I went to the school gym as well, just to go on the bike. That was all I did. And I remember going to one of my classes, and I was still always quiet, and especially now, like, I had no desire to talk to anyone. I didn't want to make any friends. I stopped talking to all of my college friends as well, which I kind of already said that. I just stopped talking to everybody except for one friend. I had one friend that I talked to, which is my childhood friend. And so I went to class. I was still a very quiet person, with the emphasis of just being numb and having no desire for life. And I had to go, one of my classes ended, I had forgotten something, I had to go back and talk to the teacher. And I've had no one ever tell me this before, especially for being like a quiet person. I've gotten all of those typical comments of like, why are you so quiet? It's like so annoying, by the way. Don't ever say that to anyone who's quiet. It's so annoying. But this teacher told me, I don't know how this conversation got there, but he told me, he said, "You're very aloof." And I was like, okay. And I had no idea what that word meant. So of course I looked it up, and it just means unfriendly, cold, distant. And he was right. That is exactly how I was. I just had never anyone tell that to me to my face before. And I didn't even know this teacher, but obviously I was just very blank in his class, and he noticed, I guess. So anyway, and then kind of moving on more to exercise, I still was like, even though I biked, I felt thicker because I was gaining some muscle, but I wasn't losing a ton of weight. But then I was taking this nutrition course, and I remember this one girl talking to the teacher. I don't know if she like asked a question, but like, I don't know how I overheard this, but I remember her talking about it. And she was talking about cross training. And I was like, what the heck is cross training? And basically she was just talking about how you do one activity, and in order to improve at that, so say for example, like I was biking, in order to improve at biking, you do another type of exercise that will actually help you get stronger at the activity that you're trying to improve at. So, and that's just because other exercises work different muscles that normally aren't worked in the activity that you normally do. So that way you have, you're actually building stronger muscles in other areas, and it helps you just perform better. So anyway, I was like, that's really interesting. And because I was biking and it was a way for me to release anger, I was like, let's add on another activity for me to release anger and to distract my brain and to keep me occupied. So this was kind of the first time I set a goal, which goals are amazing, especially when you're going through a hard time. I decided that I was gonna run, which is ironic because I hate running. I was so excited in high school. The last day I had to run a mile, I was like, I never have to run again. It was the best day of my life. But ironically, I was like, let's add running on, probably because I just didn't care. And I was like, yes, put me through some more pain, any type of different pain that I can experience besides what's going on in my brain. So I set this goal of I wanted to run 30 minutes straight, and that was it. And I looked up how to do this because I was not a good runner. I could only run like a couple minutes at a time before being totally out of breath. So I looked up this method called the walk run method. And it was basically this, you know, it was a certain number of weeks depending on where your ability started at. And eventually you would grow up to being able to do a 30-minute run without stopping. And if any of you want to know how to do this, I can do a separate video on this. Just let me know down below in the comments. I can explain it. I remember the day, I don't remember when it was exactly, but this is where I gained my love of running. I remember the day that I was able to run my first 30 minutes without stopping, and this walk run method completely worked. It was only a handful of weeks and I was able to do it. And this was like the first feeling of joy that I had experienced since my mom's death. And I was like, this is crazy. Like, I actually feel good and feel excitement. Before that, I was completely numb. Even mountain biking didn't do that. Mountain biking helped release anger, but because I set a goal and was able to achieve it, it just sparked something inside me. So I kind of became obsessed with running, and I just set more and more goals and kept improving at it. And I still mountain biked with my dad, but I continued to run. I ran most days of the week. And eventually got to a point where I was running 9 miles a day, which included sprinting in there. I just felt so powerful when I would sprint. This was literally the one piece of every single day that I felt alive. The rest of the day up until I would run was just numbness. And when I would run, I felt alive and I felt like life was worth living, even though it was like I'm running on a treadmill. Like that's what I was doing. But this literally saved me. I did get to a point where the running became a little bit too much because I was losing too much weight. Because like I said, I was running 9 miles a day, and then eating a incredibly healthy, whole food, strict diet. I was not vegan. I was eating fish and chicken and different things like that. But it was all whole foods, all organic, super healthy diet, and then running 9 miles a day. I got so skinny. My bones started showing, like you could see my rib cage. My family started to get a bit concerned. And for whatever reason, I was like, you know what, you are right. I am too skinny. And I think I'll show some pictures. This wasn't even at my skinniest. I don't know if I ever took a picture at my skinniest, but I was less weight than probably I was in like middle school, and I'm not even like a full grown human in middle school. So I was just way too skinny, and I also kind of realized that wasn't the body type that I wanted anyway. I didn't want to be stick thin. All throughout high school, that's all I wanted to be. I wanted to be model thin. I wanted to be a beanpole. Like, I don't know why, but that's just what I wanted. I wanted to look like a model, even though I don't have a model body type. But I was like, you know what? I don't want to be stick skinny. I want to be curvier. I want hips and shape and some muscle tone. And so I was like, okay, so I don't have to necessarily like stop exercising. Obviously, running is not going to develop the muscle tone that I want. So that's when I started to incorporate HIIT workouts, because I was like, I know I can build some shape with some body weight exercises. I was seeing girls online do a bunch of HIIT workouts. And then when I was like doing HIIT workouts, I was getting stronger. I was like, I want more. And I was seeing girls lift weights. And at first I was super afraid of weights because I thought I was going to look like a bodybuilder, and that's not what I wanted. I just wanted to build a feminine shape. I really wanted a butt. And so I saw all of these girls building a butt, doing weightlifting. And so I finally got into weightlifting, and trying that out. And it's just been working towards all of these things has just made life livable. And I learned to find joy in something in order to just keep on living. And I mean, I knew that exercise was, you know, it was helpful with my anger. It was helpful with, you know, breaking through the numbness that I was feeling every day. It also helped me with my anxiety. It was building up my confidence. It was doing all these amazing changes, and I felt it. And so that's why I kept doing it. But I didn't know that there was actual like science behind this to back this until I read this book called Spark. I forget who the author is. Ratty, I think is his last name. Anyway, I'll put a picture here. I'll put the link down below to his book. I'm not affiliated with this book. I'm not here to promote this book. I just, I literally read this on my own years ago, and for me, it was life-changing. It kind of reaffirmed my decision not to take medication to work through my depression. Not to say that some people don't need it. I'm not here to bash anyone who takes medication. It's just something that I didn't want to use. I was already numb, and I had, you know, heard stories about medication making you numb, and I was like, I'm already numb. Like, I don't need something else to make me even more numb. But anyway, it was just not something that I wanted to rely on. And also I've heard like negative side effects. I was like, I don't want to experience negative side effects. That was all about like anti-cancer and all that stuff. So for me, I was looking for the most natural way to approach healing my depression and getting through my numbness and finding joy again in life. And exercise and controlling my diet has done that. I eventually strayed away from being overly excessive about how strict I was with my diet, because I also realized as I was, you know, gaining more confidence and starting to socialize again, especially after that intense 3-year period, I realized that like, it's no fun to be around someone who's really anal about diet and exercise. And also it's like, having the occasional junk food is like fun. Like, yes, we want to live healthy and we don't want to get cancer or diseases and stuff, but it's like, you also want to live life and have fun, and dessert is fine, and eating junk food here and there is fine. And ultimately, like my goal is cancer prevention, but we also live in a very toxic environment. I'm just doing what I can to control it as best as possible. And that's all I can really do, is control what I put in my body and what I put on my skin. And that's pretty much all I can do to prevent cancer. Doesn't mean I'm never gonna get cancer because of the environment we live in today. But I'm just doing the best that I can to prevent it. But anyway, so I just eventually started to let go of being so strict and got back into the social environment. It's not to say that I don't get bummed out by life anymore. I honestly, the last 10 years have been incredibly difficult. And ever since my mom died, something pretty terrible has happened every single year. It's been a really hard decade. Like, it's been incredibly challenging, not just for me, but for my family as well. Just living, my mom not being here has just changed everything that we thought our future was going to look like, and it's just never ever going to be the same. And that's pretty depressing. That still gets me even now, 10 years, like nearly 10 years later. So, and it's not to say that like exercise cures your circumstances and just makes life butterflies and rainbows, but it helps get me through life. And it helps bring joy back into my life every single day. There's no way that I could give it up and start to have a positive outlook on life without living a healthy life through diet and exercise. All I can really control is what I do. I can't control my circumstances. None of the things that have happened to me in the last decade have been my fault. I've just been a part of it, and I've had to react to it. Sometimes I react poorly, and then other times I can react well to it, or I can recover from those circumstances faster. And maybe one day I'll talk about the things that have happened to me in the last 10 years, but I don't want to talk about that now. So that's another day, another time for those type of things. So it's been a very, very, very long journey getting to the point I am now. I'm still going to be really sad that my mom's not here. I still have a negative association with weddings and baby showers and all that stuff. Like, I'm happy for these other people who go through it, but it's going to be a very difficult time for me personally, like I get sad at those because I think of myself in that moment. I think my mom's not going to be here for this. Like all these people who I see with their moms, like I honestly get super, super jealous. Like it really bums me out. It sucks. It really sucks. And it's like, I'll never get over it. And the saddest thing too is thinking that like, I'm actually, you know, assuming that I live a long life, I'm actually going to spend most of my life without my mom, which is like crazy to me. But anyway, so it's not a cure-all. It's not going to save, you know, it's not going to stop horrible circumstances from happening, but it gives me a positive outlook on life. And that's the whole reason why I started this channel and why I encourage eating a mostly whole food diet, encourage eating organic, and encourage you guys to exercise, because it is really life-changing, especially through difficult circumstances. And I will just do anything that I can to make myself feel mentally and physically my best. Thank you for those of you who stayed and listened to this whole thing. It took a long time to film. I think that's all I gotta say. So anyway, thank you, and I will see you guys next time.